Happy Monday. Hopefully, everyone's having an awesome day. It's a start to a new week, the new battles. And hopefully, we win our personal battles. Hopefully, everyone's having a joyful day. But I was on Twitter as I gained home and noticed that the Senate committee is deadlocked on Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson, or Judge Jackson. The 22-member Judiciary Committees voted along party lines for a 11-11 tie rather than offering a favorable or unfavorable recommendation. Let's see what this one has. Hopefully it's not as crappy as the New York Times. Yeah, looks like I'm not going to be able to do that one either. So we'll go with the New York Times. Washington Democrats oppose on Monday to force the nomination of Judge Brown Jackson onto the Senate floor, setting up a confirmation vote this week to install the first black woman on the Supreme Court, even as Republicans fought to make her path odious as possible. I mean, with good reason. There's their record on pedos, giving them lighter sentences and recommendations. If it was just one or two, I could probably look the other way, but it's been constantly that direction. During the contentious Judiciary Committee meetings, Republicans spent hours relaying their oppositions on Judge Jackson's evaluation, calling her a progressive activist who was soft on crime, while Democrats praised her on her qualifications and demeanor and said that President Biden's nominee deserves to be confirmed. I disagree with the Democrats here. I really do. I really do disagree. This isn't like something I don't like her. The fact that she was soft on monsters. She was soft on the people that prey on our kids. That's a disqualification. Her and several other judges that have come to light that has the same recommendations or the same lacks of judgment during these hearings, during these times to do sentences, need to be fired. And that's actually, there's been judges on both the right and the left that have done this, and both of them need to be addressed. And this, is it really a historic? Can we just get rid of the historic moment? I'm getting tired of all these bursts. It seems like the Democrats are so vain. They want to be first at everything. This is a historic moment that the Committee of America, Senator Richard Durbin, Democrat of Illinois, while they do not dispute the import of Judge Jackson nominee nor her legal qualifications, Republicans, well, they do dispute her qualifications on particular cases. Republicans continue to sell her on various fronts, criticizing the sentences she handed down in sex abuse cases and her refusal to state personal judicial philosophy on her past representation on terrorist detainees as a public defender and her deep support among progressive advocacy groups. Now, I really don't care that she tried to get some people that were detained at Guantanamo Bay their due process. That should be something that should be celebrated because that's not really a walk in the park down there. It's the worst of the worst conditions. And the fact that it's not on American soil, which means that we could get away with a lot more than if they were on American soil. So that's not really a dig against her. My biggest issue right here is child sex abuse cases where she gave less than the recommended and the requested when it came to sentencing. That right there should be the highlight that the Republicans really need to hammer home. A lot of the stuff, it kind of goes over my head when it comes to some technicalities and some legalese. But this should be universal. It should be, they should get the maximum every single time. The choice of this Judge Jackson was really embraced by most radical person in the Democratic movement to the exclusion of everyone else, said Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican in South Carolina and a former supporter of Judge Jackson who became a fierce opponent. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting. I mean, it's really highlights the hypocrisy and the double standards. When she was under, like, one of the federal judges, Lindsey Graham backed her now that she's becoming a Supreme Court. Did he knew about these cases, or were these cases after she became appointed as a federal judge, now showing light the type of person that she really is? Republican polls opposed Judge Jackson nominee, unanimously deadlocking an evenly divided committee 11 to 11, and forcing a Democrat to use a special maneuver to discharge it by a vote on the full Senate. It was a marked how bitterly divided the Senate has grown over the approval of Supreme Court nominees, once regarded by the members of both parties as a matter of allowing presidents to his chosen candidates to serve on the court. I mean, I can't disagree with this because the Senate was a check and balance to make sure that we're getting qualified judges. I mean, we don't want to just rubber stamp them. I mean, we don't want to rubber stamp judges because they may be the wrong judge since they're appointed by life. Now, there is an argument to make to give them term services to where they can only serve, let's say, 5 or 10 or 12 years or 10 years, or it doesn't really matter. Just it's an arbitrary number, which I'm not opposed to. But this is the highest court. It shouldn't be under the most scrutiny just because the president recommends them. Doesn't mean that they could just automatically get rubber stamped. So I don't understand this. The market, how bitterly divided the Senate has grown over approving Supreme Court nominees, once regarded by members of both parties as matters allowing the president of his chosen candidate to serve on the court. No, there should be. The Senate was designed to put a check and balance to make sure that we get the most qualified person. Though Republicans continue to complain about the past Democratic treatment of Supreme Court's nominees named by Republicans, it was a far cry how Democrats handled Clarence Thomas in 1991. No, you just call them rapists. That's it. You just call them rapists. The Democrats went for the rapists on both Clarence Thomas and the most recent one. When Mr. Biden led the panel at the time, the committee agreed to vote to send his nominee to the floor without recommendations, despite Democrats' deep misgiving and alleged sexual harassments against the nominee. On Monday, Republicans refused to take a similar step, citing that their view that Judge Jackson is too liberal. Actually, no, she's too soft on sexual crime, child sexual crimes. That's all you gotta say. We're supposed to be trained, sealed over here, clamping when you nominate a liberal. Mr. Graham, that's not going to work. He warned when the Republicans next control the Senate, they would routinely deny Democratic judicial nominee as they consider too liberal a hearing before the Judicial Committee. A quick vote on Judge Jackson's nominee was postponed because Senator Alex Padilla, a Democrat of California, had air travel problems returning from his home state, denying his party the full contemporary 11 members to take the next step in advancing the nomination. I mean, they could have just voted that he was going to vote yay, since he's going to vote yay. That's one thing I have to give the Democrats credit for. Most times, more times than not, they will vote with the party. It's the Republicans that tend to vote with their moral compass, regardless of if they're a good candidate or not. They tend to separate their more individualism, whereas the Democrats is more collectivism. Once the vote is held by Democrats, plan to move quickly later on Monday to hold a Senate floor to force it out of committee despite the deadlock. This will clear the way for the vote as early as Thursday to confirm Judge Jackson before the looming 2-week recess. So I guess this is, I guess they're voting to get it out of committee. And once it's out of committee, then they could vote on the actual nomination. That's what I'm assuming. This postponement of the vote was another reflection of how starkly the lines are drawn, leaving no margin of error for the Democrats eager to win her approval. I mean, this is extremely biased. Just one Republican, Senator Susan Collins of Maine, has so far said that she would vote in support of the nomination on the floor, but if the Democrats remained solidly united behind Judge Jackson, they would have the votes to install her as a successor to retiring Justice Stephen J. Breyer. Republicans continue to question her credibility, citing her resistance to call an outline of her philosophical approach, with Senator John Cornyn, a Republican, in text saying that the responses show lack of candor. Someone of her impressed caliber surely has a judicial philosophy, but maybe she just doesn't want to talk about it, Mr. Collins said. I mean, this really goes on. Let's see here. Yeah, sure, I'll read it. In response to Senator Cory Booker, Democratic New Jersey, accused Republicans of creating a caricature of Judge Jackson that is so far out of the lines of reality, considering her deep credentials and experience. Going back to one of Trump's pick, you accuse that person of gang rape. You fabricated a witness out of nowhere to come forward to testify against him. So no, it's at least here they're sticking to her record. Her record of giving someone 3 months in prison for having child porn and streamed it on YouTube. So no, it's not out of left field. It's not being conjured out of nothingness. Credential experience, he says that he has heard from people who ask, how could they create these exaggerations? How could they disrespect a person like her who has done everything right in her life, in her journey? I get asked the same thing about, I think it was Kavanaugh, where they accused him of gang rape and fabricated a witness, and even her own friend denied it ever happening. Democrats defended Judge Jackson's records, noting that in the line of several independent analysts that her sentencing records was falling well within the mainstream of federal judiciary and accusing Republicans and conservative groups of distorting her record. Her record is her record. They pointed to her strong support of law enforcement groups and said that many Trump administrative nominees had issued similar sentences but were uniformly approved by the same Republicans lined up against Judge Jackson. And the more I look into this, the more that is true, and the more that I would support them being fired. Because there's a lot of judges that give less sentences for child abuse or sexual child abuses, which I think should not be up for the debate. They should get the maximum. They should have dragged throughout the mud and called the names of Senator Amy Klobuchar, Democrat of Minnesota. Democrats said the Republicans' assault as much as about the coming midterm elections as it was about Judge Jackson herself. And this is why I hate politics. Both Democrats and Republicans make politics a dirty game. One is doing what the other accuses. Without a doubt, both parties are trash. Both parties will continue to be trash until we actually elect people that actually have a decent moral compass that goes beyond to what we currently have. The principal goal here is about stirring up political division and scoring political points, said Senator Chris Coons, a Democrat of Delaware. The Democrats do this just as much as the Republicans. And the thing is, you go talk to most people, they say Republicans are racist, and they can't list one particular bill or policy that's racist. And if they can't name one, they'll just say the news that says they're racist. Clearly they're racist. Clearly they want to make sure that the blacks can't vote. So look at their voter laws, even though there's nothing that really discourages them. They just make things up and they're parroted whatever the news is saying. And I can see right here, this is a perfect example. I mean, I really wish I could get a second opinion, but New York Times, this is a perfect example why people hate Republicans, because you're misrepresenting them. These people that are saying that the Republicans are doing this to this judge, you're doing this to Republicans. Through some of the Republican members on the panel must contemplate boycotting the committee to vote to erect procedure to roadblock Judge Jackson, then quickly abandon that tactic. But none would support moving the nomination out of the committee to expedite her consideration to the floor. Even as Republicans on panel uniformly said that they would oppose her, Many offered her personal and professional praise. Senator Ted Cruz, a Texas Republican, on Monday said that Judge Jackson would be the most extreme liberal to ever sit on the court and called her charming and talented. I've known her for 30 years and always liked her personally. He said, interesting. It's taking the high road. Senator Tom Tillis, Republican of North Carolina, and others voted against her, said that this is not about the content of her character. It kind of is. Let's see what some of the comments are. So this is not about Judge Brown Jackson's experience, record of character. What a sad state of affairs that politicians of the Republican Party are so unwilling to do the fair and honest, correct thing by approving her nominee. It does, however, speak volumes of to their characters. And I would disagree with you. Kavanaugh was the example. That was the Democrats falsely going after someone's characters. So obviously Judge Brown, extraordinary talent, and she's extremely well qualified to the Supreme Court. I disagree with that. The vast majority of the Republican senators who oppose her are essentially radical right-wing extremists, in particular to reach for Ted Cruz to say that Judge Brown will be the most extreme liberal to ever sit in a court. That's particularly low even for Ted Cruz. Not really. Even the Wall Street Journal wrote today that the polarization has reached to the point where it may only be possible to appoint Supreme Court justices if the President and the Senate are in the same party. A perfect example is why many, such as myself, view the government with almost total disdain. I absolutely agree with Pete. See here, the Republicans misrepresent Jackson's record as a lame effort to derail her appointment. What else would you expect from the party that continues to worship the most corrupt president in the most recent? They celebrate Biden. I don't think they celebrate Biden or Obama in recent memory. Party who is complicit in January 6th insurrections. What about the Summer of Love where cities burnt to the ground? People were killed. The only person that was killed was one of the protesters here in January 6th by a cop. This is the party that wants cops to have accountability, but there was no accountability in that case. Wrapped around the fact that it lost the 2020 presidential election, what else would you expect? Let's see here. I expected nothing. It is what it is, and the fact that she gave a person that was streaming child porn on YouTube 3 months. I get that he was gay and was coming out of the closet and was in a very religious family, but that is no excuse for what he did. And it's no excuse for what the judge gave him 3 months. I think it was like 5 years of probation, but that doesn't really matter. The fact that he only got 3 years in prison, not 3 years, but 3 months in prison, and the fact that every case where it dealt with child abuse of a sexual nature, it was well below the recommendation and requested from the DA. So hopefully she does not have the votes. Hopefully it is. Hopefully there's not enough votes, even with the tie with Kamala Harris, because I don't think we should have people that are soft on sexual child abuse crimes. That being said, leave a comment down below on what your thoughts are. This video was probably 10 minutes too long, but leave a comment down below on what your thoughts are. Smash the like and subscribe button in any and all platforms, or just the platform that you're currently on. But most importantly, have yourself a wonderful day, morning, or evening.